Tuli, Program Convener, Dr. Anjali Gupta, Co-Convener, all committee members and dear participants. I, Anupriya Arora, welcome you all on the third day, session 2 of 2 weeks online interdisciplinary national refresher course titled The Quintessential Educator, Challenges and Opportunities in the Changing World, organized by Internal Quality Assurance Cell of ARST College in association with TLC Ramanujan College, University of Delhi. On behalf of ARST College, I welcome our honorable speaker, Dr. Shamal K. Das Mandal, Assistant Professor, IIT Kharagpur, for today's session. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time for us. Sir has done his BE Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Jawadhpur University in 1988 and has completed his PhD Engineering in 2007. His teaching interest includes audio system engineering, introduction to digital speech processing and digital signal processing techniques and its applications. Sir has further contributed in CS MOOCs certificate course under Swayam Portal program initiated by Government of India. The major research interest of Sir relates to outcome-based curriculum development with 21st century pedagogy, computer-based assessment and evaluation, and speech-based technology development for e-learning related to computer-assisted spoken language learning and accent conversation. Sir has guided 14 students at master level and 4 at doctoral level for their PhD and masters. He has been involved in 7 projects as principal investigator. He has delivered lectures at various faculty induction programs. Sir has been invited for numerous lectures organized by many national and international universities and colleges across India. He has more than 80 publications to his credit in national and international journals of repute. Sir has received National Award of Young IT Professional in 2003, awarded by Computer Society of India. Sir has further received a National Award of TIDSP Challenge in 1997, awarded by Texas Instruments India. And in 2010, Sir has received a Fellow of Japan Society for the Promotion of Science. Sir, we are really honored to have you here. And sir, now I welcome you again and invite you to deliver a talk on outcome-based education for online teaching.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to all of you. So this lecture will be look like this, that I will be interact with all of you. So you can unmute your mic also, but don't make the noise. So you can unmute, because I will often ask many questions to you, and then that session will be interactive in nature, not just delivering the information. Or I am not talking about any information, because all of you know that this is not in a particular topic. It is like that how to teach and what kind of teaching is essential for 21st century education, what a teacher has to do. And second thing is that that in online situation, like this pandemic situation, like we call online teaching. So what should you do in online teaching for quality, maintaining the quality? So today, if you see the most of the cases, the main problem is how to teach quality teaching, means maintaining the quality of your delivery. So those things I will be explained, and I will be explained. I am not touching the assessment and evaluation method, because that is also very much important issue today, because assessment and evaluation is also a part of your teaching learning process. So that I am not touching, but I will give you some reference on it. So let's share my screen. My screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll talk about that outcome-based education. How many are there? I think so, participant right now. Just a minute.
The 96.
96. Okay.
Yeah.
So most of you are, I am assuming you are all of you are teachers, and maybe not technical education. You may be teaching for general education also. Maybe, I think so. So basically, the example which I will use, most of the cases it may be technical, because my area is technical education. So it may be a technical education example, but this is all applicable for general education also. So let's start with that lectures. So let's first slide. Is the slide is visible to everybody? You can unmute your mic and you can respond. I think slide is visible to everybody. Is okay? So, is it okay?
Yeah, sir. We can
Okay.
see that. Yeah.
Okay, but moderator, you can unlock that all people mic, because people has to be answered through that audio only. So you can unlock the all people mic, doesn't matter. It will not create any sound. Let's
Okay, sir.
unlock. Okay. So now I just go through some questions. The questions means as a teacher, this is your experience. I think a lot of experienced teacher may be here. So what is your experience while you are teaching? That we call challenge in 21st century education. First challenge is how to improve student engagement. Most of cases, what is your complaint? Most of the cases your complaint is students are not coming to the class. Most of the teachers says that students are not coming to the class, they are not attentive. I have asked the same question to the students also, that why you are not attending the class. They said, sir, give me 2 reasons why should I attend the class. Any teacher, can you give a benefit of two benefit? Can you highlight 2 benefit that for that reason students should come to the class? Anybody can highlight 2 benefit? Anybody can say why the students will come to your class? Anybody? Unmute your mic and give that answer as a teacher. Why you think the students will attend your class? Anybody? You can write in chat box also if you are unable to unmute the mic. Unless it is interactive, what will happen that I will talking to the computer and backside who are sitting, I do not know, I cannot see your facial expression, I cannot see your posture, so I do not know whether I am connecting to you or I am just delivering information in front of the computer. Yes? Yes, told me? Prashant Kumar. Prashant Kumar? See, once you unmute the mic, you can understand that what the environment is there. Okay. So why? So that is the biggest challenge to a teacher. Why students will come to your class? And another question students will ask, think about how many days students are spent in reading to clear your subject. Prashant Kumar, you want to say something, then only you unmute your mic, unless you mute it. Prashant Kumar, if you want to say something, then only unmute your mic, unless you mute it. Okay. Participants? Participant, I'm requesting you that I have given you the liberty. So all are unmuted. So when I ask the question, you unmute your mic and give that interactive answer so that I can proceed. Okay. So let's say student engagement. So what I said that how many days students are read your lecture or read whatever the subject they want to give the exam to clear the exam. If you ask any students for an engineering education, I can give you an example that how many days you studied the subject to clear the subject in exam. He said 7 days before the exam is sufficient. So in engineering education, if it is 7 days before the exam is sufficient, there is a 8 semester. So 8 semesters, 7 days into 8, 56 days is sufficient for complete a BTech program. So why you go for the 4-year BTech program? General education, 1 month before the exam is sufficient. Every student said That 1 month before the exam, I'll read and I'll give the exam as sufficient. Then why there is a 3-year or 4-year program? That can be 3-month program instead of 3-year program. So as a teacher, how do you engage the students throughout the semester or throughout the year? This is a question to a 21st century teacher. When you ask the students to attend your class, he said, "Sir, told me, why should I attend the class? What is the problem today?" Earlier, whatever the teacher is delivering, that information is important for the students because the student says that time the resources are not available to the students. Resources means whatever teacher is covered, that is syllabus. We do not have that much of textbooks available, that much of resources are available today. Every information is in your fingertip in the Google. When you go to the class, start presenting something that is already available in the Google. Tomorrow I have a class. Tonight I search Google and make a presentation, and tomorrow deliver the information. Same things is done by the students. Also, they also sitting in the back of the semester. So how you expect the students will engage in the class? That is the important issue. So as a teacher, as a challenge, that see the workshop topic is a challenge in education. As a teacher, challenge in today's teaching. So as a teacher, what should you do so that students should engage in the class? Next question is how to equip students with 21st century knowledge, skill and attitude. Today, information is not important. If a student can remember the 100 capital name of 100 country, he is not intelligent. Information is not required. What is required? Skill and attitude. I can give an example. If you have studied physics, let's say, I'll give a simple example. Newton's second law of motion. Describe the Newton's second law of motion. Is not sufficient condition for students. What is condition? What he can do with the Newton's second law of motion. That is important. So if I show you a one slide, just a minute. Which part of the slide should be the education system? First part or second part? Participant, unmute your mic and give the answer. Which part?
First part.
First part. So you are carrying the education. So many theories, so many books, and that is the today's problem. All the schools, all the colleges, everywhere, what do you want? The parents said that teachers should write the question and write the model answer. Question and answer, question and answer. That is not education. That is not at all an education. What is required? What is the purpose for education? Can you give an answer? Why this education system was involved with the society? What is the purpose for education? Anybody? Why this education system was there? To providing a degree? I am English honors graduate. How it is proved? It is proved by a certificate. Why society will accept you as an English honors graduate? Why? Because you have a certain skill that common man doesn't have. Where is that skill? So education, the purpose for education to produce a skilled labor, nothing else. In a society, different kind of peoples are required. Somebody will be very good making medicine. Somebody will be making pots. Somebody will be making material. Somebody will doing something else. So all are important. How do I produce those skilled labor? Using an education system. So education should carry us. we should not carry the education. Education is for the betterment of the society. It is not that a student has to remember the Maxwell equation, they have to know the Newton's second law of motion, they have to know the gravitation. Why? Why they have to know the gravitation? Think about it. I am English honors graduate, but I am not able to write a letter to municipal chairperson regarding the repairing of the road. Can I say that I am English honors graduate? No. So as a teacher, if you say my job is to go to the class and delivering information, that era is gone. You have to develop the skill and attitude of the student. It is not that you open a PPT and read the PPT. This information doesn't required by the students. So as a teacher, how you develop the skill set of the student? That is the question. Second question is how to continuously improve the curriculum. It is not that there is after every 5 years there will be a curriculum committee, they will revise the curricula. Oh, this is my curricula, so I will teach this. No, not at all. It has to be continuously improved depending on the requirement of the society. There is a lot of material is available, lot of lecture is available, lot of things are available. How that can be incorporated in your course so that it evolves year by year. This is very much important, continuous improvement of the curriculum. Next challenge is how to ensure examination system to reinforce the teaching and learning. Now I'll ask, what is the purpose for examination? Anybody? What is the purpose for examination? It may be a semester exam, it may be a class test, it may be a something else. Why we take exam? Anybody?
So we need to check how much the student has, understand about the concept which are taught in the class. We want to know about the things we are teaching them and how they are grabbing it, so that improvements can be made.
So what you done? You give a questions, out of question, oh you got 0, oh you got 30, you never pass, you got 40. What is the use? Think about, you go to a doctor and doctors told you to examine your blood for sugar. Now you examine and you find that your blood sugar is 480. Is it N? Unless you show it to the doctors and doctor prescribe the medicine, you take the medicine, this process is never end. So what is the main purpose for examination? The purpose for examination is to reinforce the teaching and learning. So how do you do the reinforce of teaching and learning? If I ask you, what is assessment and what is evaluation? All of you know. What is assessment and what is evaluation? Anybody? What is assessment and what is evaluation? All of us are teachers. Speak out, no problem. It is our discussion only. It is nothing but a discussion about the teaching problem. So what is assessment and what is evaluation? Anybody can unmute your mic and give that answer.
Sir, assessment can be qualitative type, but evaluation is in most of cases it is quantitative.
So that means semester exam is assessment or evaluation? Annual exam is assessment or evaluation?
Giving marks, evaluation.
So giving marks, evaluation. So the definition is very simple. Any exam is an assessment. So assessment is a process for gathering data or gathering evidence about learner competence. So assessment is a process for collecting evidence about learner competence. Then what is evaluation? Based on the collected evidence, when I quantify the competence, that is called evaluation. So any exam is an assessment. When you say you got 80% marks, evaluation. So how do we decide if the person has got 80% marks? How do you decide your assessment plan? Anybody? I'll show you. So assessment, all of you know the assessment is a two type. One is called summative assessment, one is called formative assessment. So when evaluation is not part of the assessment, assessment is a procedure to collect evidence about learner competence. So what competence you should expect it from the learner? Universities don't know, you cannot make it tough questions. People should got 30 marks very easy. What do you mean by easy questions? The question is nothing called easy and tough, whether it is desired or not. So what competence you want to measure? The outcome at the end of the course, what learner should able to do. There is nothing called easy question or difficult question. Whether it is a desired question or not, whether it is related to your expected outcome or not. So that's why it is called criteria-based assessment. The criteria is fixed by course outcome. For example, suppose you said, I am teaching a course on, let's say, physics. Maybe the physics teacher is here. So let's say I'm teaching a course on acoustics. So one of the competence of the learner is that they should able to derive the linear wave equation. Or I can say they should able to design or they should able to calculate the reverberation time of a studio, let's say. So given a studio specification, they should able to calculate or determine the reverberation time. That is my target. So my assessment should be related to the target. I should not ask them describe reverberation time. If I ask them describe reverberation time, that is not related to the target. That is not criteria based. So that assessment is called invalid. So assessment is criteria based. How do I assign the competence? This part is evaluation. So suppose I have a 5 target. Out of 5 target, a learner achieved 3 targets. What is his competence? 3 by 5 into 100%. So suppose he got 3 targets. Okay, so I can assign the competence. Now suppose a learner not achieved my target number 4 and 5. So as a teacher, what should I do? As a teacher, what should I do? So after providing the marks to the students, how many of you revisit that answer script and to find out what is the common mistakes of the students? The problem is, if you see that 80% of learner not achieve target number 4, as a teacher, what feedback you can take? So either your teaching learning process is not effective for the achieving the target number 4, or the target number 4 is not achievable. So that is called reinforcement of teaching and learning. That is reinforcement of teaching and learning. Now all of you take class test. If I told you what is the purpose for class test? Why you take class test? Tell me. Have you taken class test or not? If you take, then why you take class test? Anybody? You can write in chat box also, or you can unmute your mic. Why you take class test? Then I have to call by name. Satish Salva. Shankar, are you here? Shailendra Kumar. I asked a question, why you take class test? Give me the answer. Unmute your mic or you can write in chat box also. Abhishek Gaur, why you take class test?
To see the development of the child, like what they have gained.
To assess the to access the progress of the students. Okay. So
No,
why
just
how
to
you
know,
design?
just to know whether they are getting what I'm telling in the class or not.
Okay. So that suppose that I have okay, many times we said, okay, tomorrow I'll take a class test. I give a question and then we said out of 15 you got 0 or you got 7, you got 8. This is my purpose of the class test.
No, the thing is that that student, if he is not attending the classes regularly, he won't be able to answer, or
Then
maybe there is something the way of teaching. So at times the teacher is also faulty.
that's actually the purpose of the class test is to find out the misconception of the students and provide a remedial lesson. So unless you provide the remedial lessons, the purpose of the class test is gone. Class test should not be used for providing marks to the students. It is not the purpose to evaluate the students. It is purely to find out what is the misconception of the students, and you have to provide remedial lessons to remove that misconception. So unless your assessment system is not designed to reinforce the teaching and learning, the purpose for teaching is gone. So assessment is a part of your teaching and learning process, and how it will be included in your teaching learning process is very important. Unless you do that, whole the examination is not a valid. Today, if you see, most of the cases teachers are complaining that students cannot remember one subject in the next semester. In engineering education, when a fourth year students ask anything about the first year subject, they say, sir, I forgot it. Third year subject, they say, I forgot it. Why? Why this is happening? How to improve that assessment system so that this should not be happening? So why this is happening? What is the problem? Most of the cases, if you see the question paper is describe this, explain this, write a short note on this. How many of you give that kind of questions? What students will do? He will either remember the description or studying the before the exam. Once the exam is over, he forgot. So how do we improve that fact? So what I said, it should be skill. How do you convert the education to skill? Think about. Suppose you learn your bicycling. You learn bicycling. After 1 month, if I give you a bicycle, are you not able to bicycle it? Are you not able to bicycle it? If it is yes, then why it is possible? Because it is skill. You never forgot a skill, whether it is a cognitive skill, psychomotor skill, doesn't matter. So if your assessment is purely skill-based, students will never forget it. If it is not skill-based, student will forget it after the exam. So there are a lot of things has to be done in assessment and evaluation also, because that is also a part of the education system. Unless the proper assessment and evaluation, your education system cannot be perfect. So this is a challenge. What is the next challenge? Today, it's not only that you have to teach or you have to deliver the information. You have to develop the capability of self-learning by the students. Students will learn by themselves. So how do you develop that capability? Next question is how to teach a large class. There is a lot of teacher is there. So what is the perfect teacher-student ratio? What is the perfect teacher-student ratio for base teaching? Anybody, unmute your mic. Or you can write in chat box. What is the teacher-student ratio for base teaching? Anybody? Nobody is giving answer.
120,
Huh?
120, one teacher and 20 students in the class.
Okay, 1 is to 20. Okay, 1 is to 25, 1 is to 40. Now I ask you, why you say 1 is to 20 and 1 is to 25 or 1 is to 40? Why?
So
What is the reason?
UGC has given this data for the
Hmm.
teachers. There's the instructions for the colleges and the teachers.
Hmm.
There will be the 1 ratio into 20, but the actual practice is not there.
Now that is okay. But how do you define that 1 is to 20 is the best? Not 1 is to 30, not 1 is to 40. Somebody said easy to monitor and guidance them. Okay, can you objectively give the answer? This is the reason, that's why this should be 1 is to 20, 1 is to 40. Not answer with the break. Somebody said it is 1 is to 20, somebody said 1 is to 30, somebody said 1 is to 25. How do you define it based on the objectivity? I am assuming all of you know the learning theory and learning approaches. All of you know the learning theory and learning approaches. What is the learning theory says that? Learning theory says that best teaching happens when the delivery of the instructor matches with student learning style and learning approaches. That is come from the education theory. That if the delivery of the instructor matches with learning style and learning approaches of the students, then best teaching happens. If this is the requirement, then what should be the teacher-student ratio? 1 is to 1. Because every student has its own learning style and learning approaches, and that also depends on topic, that also depends on time, that also depends on mood of the students. So what happens if it is 1 is to 1, the teacher can assess the learning style and learning approaches of the students for particular that time, and he can modify his delivery so that students can learn. So theoretically, the best teaching can happen when the ratio is 1 is to 1. That is the justification. It is not 1 is to 20, it is not 1 is to 30, it is not 1 is to 40. Now, today I cannot say that. I cannot say that it will be 1 is to 20 or it will be 1 is to 30 or it will be 1 is to 1. That is not possible. I have to take a class of 200 students. So how do I do it? Then the question is come to educational technology or pedagogy of teaching or andragogy of teaching, whatever you can say. What is my motto? My motto is virtually create 1 is to 1 teacher-student ratio in my class. Practically, I cannot create 1 is to 1 because that is not possible for a class that there will be only 1 student. There will be a 200 students, 300 students. So how do I virtually make it 1 is to 1 using technology? That is called personalized learning. So as a teacher, what technology I should use, what pedagogy I should use, so that virtually I can create 1:1 teacher-student ratio. So those are the questions which I raise. Anybody has any solution of this question? Can you say anything about how do you improve the student engagement? Anybody?
Give student friendly tasks.
Give student, what do you mean by student friendly stuff?
Student friendly, here I mean like you give them some topic and ask them to make questions out of it. And if
Now the
the way they are,
topic must be related to your domain.
yes,
And then question should be, what kind of question you should ask them?
whatever I have to teach them in a storytelling manner, I'll tell them as a story, and then, I mean.
Okay, how many of you heard about the flip teaching, blended learning, all of you? I think so. Today,
Yeah,
overall
blended
the-
learning. Blended
Yes.
learning is something like online plus offline. We can give them some objects. We can give them.
that is textbook's definition. But what we have to do for blended learning? I give them some online material and I deliver some offline material. Is it blended learning? No.
Yeah, I'm not getting what you're telling. Like,
Now I'm saying that what you do in blended learning, give some material online and give some material offline.
not exactly that.
But what? What?
Of course, it will be some mix-up only, but not giving materials. We can discuss about it in the class. and
What
then
to
we can
discuss?
task
That is very important. What to discuss?
the subject which you have to teach.
Now, subject is a vague definition. See, this is the problem. That if you see a subject has a list of topic. What is there in syllabus? A list of topic. What is the problem? Suppose you are teaching
Here
the
the
course.
crux we need to discuss.
Yes. So subject is teacher dependent.
Yes.
But degree is not teacher dependent. Degree is unique. So how do you make the subject is teacher independent? See, I can give an example. Suppose give an example in my side, my engineering side. Suppose there is a subject called, let's say digital signal processing, let's say subject. And there is a 5 topic. First topic is AD conversion. Second topic is there is a discrete transformation. Third topic is filter design. Like that, a lot of topic is written. Now, suppose I am the teacher. Suppose I have a very good knowledge on 1 or 2 topics, and I have a shaky knowledge and topic number 4 and 5. What generally we do? We spend most of the time where I am competent. Few classes where I am not competent. Who is deprived? Students. He has to know that amount. Think about, you have a disease, you have a throat infection, you have to take azithromycin. If you take 3 instead of 5, is it will be curable? No. So you have to define what is the subject is meaning, what skill you want from this subject. Unless you define that, nothing, there is no blended learning, there is no flip teaching. You know what is the most complaint about the student? Student said, before I attending the class, I do not know what topic teacher will cover. Once I attend the class, I find out that topic can be read out during the semester. So that's why I am not read in the hostel. Or that's why I am not read in the home. This is the biggest problem. This is the main problem of engagement. They do not know how much you will cover unless they attend your class. So this is not concretely defined. Whether you are doing online teaching, blended learning, flip teaching, doesn't matter unless you define what to achieve. That is called outcome-based education. So those are the questions I have raised for every teacher, that how to improve the engagement, how to develop their skill, how to continuously improve the curricula, how my assessment system should be reinforcement of teaching and learning, not to provide marks to the students, how to encourage their self-learning, and how to teach a large class. If I able to answer all the questions, my teaching will be effective. A teacher job is not to deliver information in the class. You go to the class, derive a second order differential equation from one corner to another corner. None of the students are today interested, because the same thing is available in the Google also. So what extra thing you should do? All of you know about the NAC, no? Most of you know about the NAC. Madam Anita Singh. So what is NAC? What is the purpose for NAC? What is the purpose for accreditation? You know about accreditation. Today term is come, accreditation. What is the purpose for accreditation? Can anybody say what is the purpose for accreditation? Okay, no answer, no interaction. Anybody? Write down in the chat, or you can unmute your mic and say it. Abhishek Roshan. Unless you interact, I lose the tempo of that, delivering that. Amit Kumar, Amit Kumar, Dr. Amit Kumar. Ajit Kumar, are you here? Bhubanesh Sharma. Bhubanesh Sharma. What is accreditation? All of you know that. You have done NAC accreditation, NBA accreditation. What is accreditation? Okay, so you are not interactive. So what is accreditation? Accreditation is a process for objectively measure the quality of an educational program. I'll show you. Suppose I just if my video is visible. Suppose I want to measure the quality of this pen. How can I measure? Anybody? Anybody? Just common sense. I want to measure the quality of this pen. How can I measure it? Unless it is interactive. But okay, somebody had said something in the chat box. Evaluate the grade, the institution in order to maintain the quality of. So what do you mean by I want to measure the quality of education? So how do you measure the quality of education? I want to measure the quality of this pen. There is two techniques. One is called objective, another one is called subjective. Subjective means many people, when you buy a product from Amazon, either you look for review, okay, out of 5, this product is 4.5, so this product is good. That is called subjective measurement. And when I say objective measurement, then you say how the pen is writing, what is the weight of the pen, what is the color of the pen, how much duration of the pen, all kind of parameter you have to set to measure the quality of the pen. That is called objective measurement. So accreditation is not the purpose to measure the quality of an educational program. Objectively, not subjectively. Subjectively, many people say, JNU, this branch is good. That's why that branch is good. that branch may not be good. So how do I objectively measure the quality of an education program? That is called accreditation process. I'm not going details on accreditation process. There are a lot of things has to be discussed. So I have to parameterize the education program. I want to measure the education program on this parameter. Parameter means outcome. It is not how many library is there, how many chair is there, how many professor is there. It is the outcome of your product. What is your product? Your pass out students. So what are the minimum skill set you require to for a pass out students? That is accreditation. I'm not going details on accreditation. More or less, I will clear your this question, the questions which I raised in the slides. Okay. So let's go. So let's say that those all questions can be answered by the process called outcome-based education or outcome-based learning. I'll show you a picture. All of you, I think so, have read this book, no? Have you read this book? Alice in the Wonderland? Anybody? What is the philosophy of this picture? Can anybody say? What is the philosophy of this picture? Anybody has gone through this book? What is the philosophy of a picture? Very simple. A girl standing on a junction of path. There is a junction of path. A lot of paths are there. He asks the cat which path he is supposed to take. Cat replied, where do you want to go? Girl said, I do not know. Then cat said, take any path, doesn't matter. So philosophy is that unless you know your target, the path doesn't matter. That is called outcome-based education. So outcome-based education is that outcome has to be defined clearly. So in education purpose, a role of a teacher is not to teach in the class. Role of a teacher is define the target where you want the student to achieve and guide and mentor the student to achieve the target. It is not, okay, you go to the class and deliver the information. So role of a teacher is mentor and guide. It is not school education. I am talking about the adult education. School education is different. Outcome-based education may not be applied in school education because school education is building the habit. That is different issue. So, but in adult education or after 10+2, so role of the teacher is that you define the target where a student has to achieve based on your accreditation requirement. Suppose I am saying I am a civil engineer. So somebody knows or industry had defined, if I say I am a civil engineer, what are the skills I should suppose to acquire? I may be able to design a bridge. I may be able to design a building using CAD/CAM software, all kinds of things. Then the teacher in every subject, teacher must define to design a building may require to know about the many subjects. So for every subject, goal to us to design a building. And for every subject, there will be a performable goal. What a student has to perform at the end of the course. So what is the role of the teacher? Teacher will guide and mentor the student to reach the target. I cannot say, I'll teach you. Suppose today I am delivering lecture. Somebody may not be listening to the lecture. They are doing some other work, just logging in the screen. But can I teach them? So if a learner do not want to learn, a teacher cannot teach them. So as a teacher, I cannot say, I'll teach you. I can say, I'll mentor and guide you to reach the goal. Think about an example in our Mahabharata. There is a lot of students. There is 105 students, 106 students are there in Dronacharya. Only Arjun achieved it. But Dronacharya fixed the target for everybody, that you have to achieve it. But Arjun is achieved it because he mentor and guide, he follow the guidance of the Dronacharya, he will achieve the target. It's not necessary that every people will achieve your goal. But I have to maximize the function. I have to say that if I have 100 students in my class, I have to ensure that 80 students are achieved. My job is clear. Example is goes with the Guru. Many of you have know the Guru. None of the Guru on any religious said that I will take you to the God. Nobody said that. Everybody said that I will show the path to reach the God. Whether you reach there or not, that is depends on disciple. So learning is learner responsibility, not teacher responsibility. But teacher responsibility is guide and mentor the students to reach the goal. There are many teachers said that in my class, students are not coming. What is the problem? My class students are not coming. So if you see, some guru has many disciples and some guru has 1 or 2 disciples. Why? Because the guru can motivate more number of disciples. That's why he has a more number of disciples. So one of the major role of the teacher is to how do you motivate the students? So role of the teacher is guide and mentor the students and motivate the students. If you are able to motivate the students correct way, motivation is different way. That's why you are a teacher. It may be a negative, it may be a positive. So as an individual student, you know what kind of motivational talk is required for that particular student. So that is the role of the teacher. Motivate the students, guide and mentor the students to reach the goal. That's why teacher must be available in 24 hours. He is a friend and philosopher of the students. You cannot say, okay, I do not have a time, don't come to me. Oh, I do not increase your grade. What is that? A student grade is EX grade, but he does not know about the subject. The reliability of the grade is 0. Think about a student got EX grade in a subject, and after 1 month, if you ask any question, he is not able to answer it. Then what is the reliability of the grade? It's 0. So that is very important issue. So how do I teach? How do I design my course? How do I teach my, what should be the teaching learning process? What is the assessment and what should be the pedagogy? All are very important issues to answer the questions which I raised in the first slide. I'll show you one possible solution for teaching to answer that question which I raised in the first slide. What is the solution? From theory subject, from learning theory background, I'm coming from the classical learning theory side. What it said? The learning objective or learning goal or outcome must be linked with material, and the material and outcome must be linked with questions. So this is a triangle. It is not that material, questions and outcome are mutually exclusive. They are mutually inclusive. Think about just simple example. Suppose you are admitted in a driving school, 3-month training program on driving school. One school says that at the end of the 3 months driving, you know how gear operate, you know what is class, you can operate class, you know what is brake, what is disc brake, what is ABS system, everything, what is this? And another school they said that at the end of the 3-month program, you will be able to drive the car on a road. Which one is preferred? Second one. So as a teacher, you have to know this theory, you have to know this equation, you have to know this derivation, you have to know all kinds of things. Yes, I have to know. But what I have to achieve? You have to know Shakespeare, you have to know Othello, all kinds of things. But why? What I have to achieve? No, doesn't have an end. So why the teachers has to define the goal? Because teachers only know how much know is sufficient for that degree program. If you search any subject in the Google, suppose I search in analog electronics, I get thousands of material. But I do not know which or how much material is sufficient or what skill is sufficient for a BTech electronics engineer. I do not know what are the skill is sufficient for a BTech electrical engineer. What are the physics? If I search in physics any topic or chemistry any topic, sociology any topic, a lot of materials are available. What is I do not know? Then if I say I am an English honors, what are the skill is important for an English honors graduate? That has to be defined by the teachers. That is called outcome-based learning. So how do you design outcome-based learning? So there is a framework. This is the outcome-based learning framework. I will demonstrate in a software so that you can get the hands-on experience on it. Is the screen is visible? Participant?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, visible. So suppose I will show you one course. Suppose you design a course like this. First I'll show you a course, then I'll design the course. So what I said in outcome-based learning, you have to design the course objective or course outcome. There is a two definition of objective. One is called, in many accreditation documents, they said the course objective means course goal and course outcome are different things. But in my opinion, if you write your course objective using ISD principle, you know ISD principle, instructional system design principle, then it becomes outcome. So here course objective means outcome of your course, not course goal. Course goal is what teacher want to cover, but outcome is what students has to do at the end of the course. So what is there? There is a course overview, there will be a course outcome, and there will be a problem related to every outcome. So that means the students know if I am able to solve this problem, I achieve this outcome. So you have to design this entire course. Then course is divided in a module. Module means chapter. Chapter 1, chapter 2, each chapter has a name and each module has a lecture. So lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3. Every lecture has a lecture summary, lecture outcome, again lecture test item. This problem if I am able to solve, I achieve this outcome, lecture outcome. And then the lecture material, video, whatever you want to give, you can give. Now think about, you design this entire course and give it to the students before they come to your class. There is a chat, somebody is written. So before they come to your class, you design your course like this way. Then you say that tomorrow I'll take the lecture number 1. So here, student know what is the lecture summary, what will be the lecture summary, what is the lecture target, and what kind of problem I have to solve at the end of the lecture. This is known by the students. So before they come to the class, they come with preparation. Now they cannot say, sir, I do not know what topics teacher will cover in the next day. That's why I am not reading. I do not know what are the problem has to be solved. That's why I have not practiced any problem in hostel. That they cannot say. They know what topic will cover tomorrow. They know what is their target. They know what kind of problem they have to solve. So instruct them, come prepared with. They will. Some students will initially come. Some students initially do not come. But you encourage them in a class. Now you talk about the blended learning, flip teaching, whatever you can say. So this is nothing but a blended learning and flip teaching both. So now class, what do you do? Instead of delivering the same information, you precisely explain the concept covered in that class and give a new problem. You have already read that class, you know what has to be achieved, you understand that topic. So let's try to solve this problem. Give your opinion on this problem. Some students smart students will come and share it to the others. So what is happening? Your class interaction is increased. So your engagement of the students is increases. Next is skill development. You are saying the outcome is nothing but a skill. It is not that student will be able to describe this. They should be able to know this. No. They should be able to do this. So I am encouraging the skill development of the student. So my first question, how to improve student engagement? Solve. My second question, how to develop their skill? Solve. Continuous improvement of the curricula. Suppose you have developed this curricula. Now, let's say somebody in industry or some expert can say, this kind of skill is not required for this grade of students. You may taught this skill. So you are continuously upgrading. Similarly, somebody can say, this is the problem they can add, which is support this outcome. This is a case study. This is better for this kind of outcome. So continuous improvement of the curricula is possible. Self-learning ability. How to develop the self-learning ability? Unless they solve the problem by themselves. So unless you provide the assignment, they cannot solve the problem. So here the assignment is given. So now you are encouraging their self-learning ability. Now I come to the large classroom problem. So what is the common problem in a large classroom? Anybody? Anybody? Unmute your mic. Tell me what is the common problem in a large classroom? It is very passive. It must be very interactive.
Class management.
Huh?
Class management.
Class management means what? What do you mean by management?
Means you are the teacher is finding it difficult to control the class.
So control means make them quiet in the class.
Yes, people at the student at the last benches are not paying much attention. So even teacher is distracted in taking the classes.
Okay. So you are saying the teacher distraction is the one of the biggest problem. Next, anybody?
You might not be able to pay attention to every student.
Yes. So you might not be able to pay attention for every student. So in summary, what we, in my experience, what we observe, what you can observe that suppose you go to the class and delivering an information, just facing back to the students, students will do Facebook, definitely, because your class is not interactive. So what I'm saying, if you just deliver the information, students are not bothered at all, because that information is available in the Google. So what I'm saying, instead of doing that, you are creating interest among the students, giving a new problem, new challenging problem solved by themselves. Now I come to the second problem, that how do I pay attention to individual students? So what is the common problem? In a 100-student class, everybody has his own learning style and learning approaches. Every student has its own learning style, learning approaches. You cannot say that all 100 students have same learning style, same learning approaches. Somebody may be a surface learner, somebody may be a deep learner, somebody may be an achiever, somebody may be a textual learner, somebody may be a visual learner. So how do you tackle that problem? Learning style I can tackle by providing them material in different format. If you see in every module call learning, you can say there is a module. If you go any module, here is a learning strategy. Here you can give them different kinds of learning material. Somebody may be a textual, somebody may be a video, but targeted material. Don't say the students follow this book. Oh, you can read this book. This is a vague statement. For a particular module, you have to say that this book, this chapter, this page to this page. You can download this video, this time to this time you read it. For a particular module. Never said, oh, read this book. That is gone. Second one is learning approaches. So in learning approaches, what problem generally we face in a class? There is a first bench, middle bench, and last bench. If I teach for the first bench, then middle bench say the subject is difficult, but okay, we can follow it. Last bench say, oh, subject is very difficult, we should not follow it. If you teach for the middle bench, first bench says subject is very easy. Last bench still say it is difficult. Now, if I teach for the last bench, then the first bench and middle bench say subject is useless. So how do I tackle this? Very simple. This material is given to the students before they come to the class, to all students. So I'm explaining how do I virtually create 1:1 teacher-student ratio. So this document is given to every student. Everybody know their target. Everybody know what kind of problem they have to solve. Everybody know how many lecture will be there in the course and what's the each and individual lecture outcome, what kind of problem I have to solve in a lecture, what kind of problem I have to solve in a module, then what kind of problem I have to solve in a course. Everything is given to the students. Now, first bench students can achieve it by, let's say your semester is 4 months long. First bench student can achieve it by 3 months. But this is the minimum requirement of the subject for the particular program. First bench may achieve it by 3 months. So next 1 month, as a teacher, I can provide it the more complex problem. That means they maintain the minimum quality requirement, but the extra quality I given to the first bench. The minimum quality is this subject, what has to be achieved. So since they achieve it by 3 months, I can provide it the more complex problem. Middle bench can achieve it 3.5 months. Okay, for last 0.5 months, I can provide them the less complex problem. But last bench should achieve it by 4 months. So I am creating virtually 1:1 teacher-student ratio. Multi-section class. What is the problem? Common problem in multi-section class. Some sections say, oh, that teacher is very excellent. Our teacher is not good. So they are complaining to the management. They are complaining to the vice chancellor. So what is happening? And vice chancellor also do, oh, what should I do? That teacher has to also teach. So how do you solve it? Very easy. You develop this entire material for a particular topic. Forget about how many section is there. Give it to the every section, every student. Now suppose you have a 5 teacher, and all 5 teachers may not be equal in all subject, all topic. Some teacher may be very good in module number 1. Use it for module 1. Some teacher is very good problem solver. Use it as a problem solver. Not necessarily that every teacher has to give every lecture. Think about a new teacher joining in your college. What is there? He has to prepare his coursework. He go to the Google, search some PPT material, put together and deliver the lecture. This is not. Told the teacher, this is available. This you have to teach. So it's kind of teacher training. So this is the advantage of this kind of outcome-based curricular design. I am not saying only write the course outcome. Entire course you have to write down. Then you have to deliver the lecture based on this only. The software is useful. Software, anybody can do this, use this software to develop. This is the develop courses. But when you want to develop the course, there is a institute registration or training. Suppose institute registration you want to do. Okay, somebody has raised hand. Is there any questions? Moderator, you can unmute the raised hand. Abhishek, go.
Sure, sir.
What is your question? Abhishek? I'm not getting. So how do you develop the course? So there is a institute registration. You can register your institute. Suppose this my FDP. I say FDP. What is your college? I just forgot the college. The FDP today. Let's say today's date I have given. Let's say 25th November is my institute. There will be an institute representative. Let's say myself the institute representative. There will be an email ID. Let's say this is my email ID. Okay. I have to create a password. 6-character password. Then institute mission, institute vision, I can write and I can submit. Once you submit, your institute registers successfully. So now your institute will be shown in here. So how do I search? Control F. I said FDP 25th, I think so, 25th November. Okay, this is my institute. Now, under the institute, there are many programs. Let's say physics honors. Let's say I write page N. Let's say, and I can write down educational objective. Program educational objective. I am not explaining what those things. Then I have to provide the password, which is an institute representative is created. 1, 2. Let's say this is my password. I have created. Submit. Your program registered successfully. Why I have created the institute coordinator? Because same institute, same program, many people register the same. You do not know how many institutes, same institute will many times will appear. To avoid that, one institute, one representative will register the institute and he will create the program registration. He will enter the program. Let's say physics honors is a program. Then he will enter the English honors is a program. Then under the program, there is several course. So now under the program, physics department, now teachers are allowed to register their course, what they teach. Suppose I said I teach a course on acoustic. Okay. Then I said acoustics is my course. My principal developer, I am the developer. Let's say this is my email ID. Okay. Then I have to create my password, because every course is password protected, so that during the development time, nobody should see it. Once its development is completed, I can publish it for the students for the let's say UG course, third semester course, submit. Your course is registered successful. So this is my course. Now go to the acoustics, go to the course development page. What is required? Email ID and password. Login. What is there? If you see course on acoustics, it has course overview. I have to write down the course overview. What should be contained in the course overview? What should be the content in the course overview? Anybody? Unmute. Unmute and told. What is the course overview? What is course overview? Am I not audible? Let's see.
You are audible.
So what is course overview? Tell me, what do you understand by course overview? Most of the people will say the course overview is nothing but a coverage of the course. Yes, that is the coverage of the course, along with how do you motivate the student to take this course. Can you write one paragraph? How do you motivate the students about this course? Is there anybody from Bengali background? Is there anybody? Or anybody read Sukumar Ray? Is anybody has literature background and read Sukumar Ray? Is anybody is there? Have you read Sukumar Ray? Anybody knows? In Sukumar Ray, he has written long back. See that how he was a visionary about the education system. Long back, he has written a poem. What is the idea? He said, a learned person ride on a boat riding on a river. And that learned person asks that boat driver that you know how the sun is raised, how the moon is raised, how the tide is come. So many things he is asking. But the boat driver said, sir, I do not know anything because I do not know anything. Then the learned person said, oh, you are very useless person. You do not know nothing. So what do you do in your life? Your life is hell. Then suddenly there is a storm in the river and boat supposed to sink. Then the boat driver asked the learned person, sir, are you not swimming? Then learned person said, no, sir, I do not know. Then he said, no, your life is now hell. So what is you want to mean? You want to mean that you know this equation, that derivation, that things, but what purpose? Unless you motivate your students, how the students will be motivated? Unless I am not satisfied with why I read this. That you have to write down one paragraph. That is course overview. Then course outcome. You write down the course outcome. So how do you write down? Suppose you do not know taxonomy of learning. this may be covered in your course in any FDP. Taxonomy of learning is important. Bloom's taxonomy of learning. Suppose you do not know, so you write down an outcome. I'll show you an example. Just a minute. I'll show you an example by opening a PPT. Just a minute. Down, maybe there. Let's say I just show you. Let's say I give an example of an outcome. So suppose this is my course outcome. I just copy and paste here. Is it visible? Is it visible?
No, sir.
So tell me, what is the action verb? What are the action verb present in the outcome? Is it visible or not?
No, sir.
No, sir.
It's not visible.
No, sir.
Just a
No.
minute. So long time I am doing this. Now this is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So you have not seen that my software in what I am presenting?
No. I thought there was problem with my screen.
No, I have demonstrated a complete software. Oh, you have to raise. That's why the interaction is very much important. Now you can now tell me which are the action verb present in this. What are the action verb there? Tell me. So there is a two action verb. What is the definition of an action verb? Anybody?
The verb is show some action.
No. Taxonomy action verb. Bloom's taxonomy action verb. I think all of you, many of you have done the B.Ed. I think so. B.Ed, M.Ed. So you have learned this. So action verb means those English verbs which are measurable. No, understand is not measurable because that's why they are not action verb. No, understand are not action verb. So here you can say there are two action verb. One is list, another one is design. So suppose you do not know anything about the taxonomy of learning. So suppose I want to find out if list is my action verb. So what is the cognitive level of that outcome? So you go here, select all, go here, press L. So there will be a label list. If you click list, it shows that his cognitive level is knowledge, means very low level of skill. Then what is the next? Next one is design. You go again there and select D. It will say design is synthesis level. So as per taxonomy of learning, even outcome, the highest level of the action verb is the cognitive level of the outcome. So I choose design, synthesis, submit. So this give me, this is my course outcome, which is in synthesis level of cognition, human cognition. Now I write next one. That way you can write your course outcome. Then you can add module. Suppose my first one is chapter number 1. Let's say chapter number 1, L1. Let's say chapter number 1, add. Module is added. Then I have to write down the module overview. Then again I have to write down the module outcome. Procedure is same. Then again I have to write down the unit. Lecture. Let's say this is the lecture number 1. Lecture number 1 add. And every lecture has a lecture summary. You write down the lecture summary here. Then lecture summary. Go back to main page, lecture outcome, there will lecture outcome, objective is lecture outcome, and then every outcome must be linked with problem. So suppose course level problem, if you say, this is the problem which linked with this outcome. You have to click here and submit. So that way you can develop your entire course. Once you developed it, it will be available in the, I just show you. Is it visible? Visible?
The file, sir, the course problem 1 is visible, the screen. With
Now
the
this screen,
objectives.
the screen which I am clicking is not visible.
No, sir.
Okay. This is the zoom problem. Now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
So this is the one example of a course which is completely developed for 40 lectures. So course overview, course objective, course level, test item. So once you develop the entire course in this software, the software which I have explained, it will look like this to a students. So student know course outcomes, student know what are the modules there, student know what are the lecture is there, lecture summary they know, lecture outcome they know, lecture level problem they know. So before the class, they will read it in the hostels and come with that reading. So that's why it is engage the students. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So I'll not cover all the topic which is required, how to write the course outcome. This is also a topic. And how to make a question also a topic. So those part I am not going details. I'll stop here. There is another 3 to 4 minute time so that I can take some questions.
Sure, sir. We have got 3 questions.
Okay. Told me.
Thank you, sir. Now the first question is from Dr. Gopal Kumar. Sir, he says, मेरी जिज्ञासा यह है कि अपने विद्यार्थियों से पढ़ाई के प्रति रुचि पैदा करने के लिए कौन से उपाय अपनाने चाहिए?
Told me that is the important factor of a teacher. How do you motivate your students to regarding the study? See, what is the human nature? If you told them to read it, if you just ask yourselves, why you read a storybook? Why you watch a movie? Because you are enjoying it. There is a recreation. That means there is a logical end. Something is said and you want to see the end because you think it is logical. Now, if you teach an abstract in nature, that is completely not correlated only information. If you told a child to remember the 100 capital name, he will be not interested. If you told a child, okay, I'll show you the color of a country and then remember so really interesting things you have to say. So that is very important issue. How you motivate the students. Motivate the students by more doing things, not more remembering things. You told them the target. You have to do this. Suppose you are teaching in a language course. If I ask you, if you told them write a short note on this, they will read some book.
Activity-based teaching.
Yes, activity-based teaching. So outcome is the activity. So if you see, the more interesting fact is that most of the students before the exam goes to the library and find out last 2 to 3 year question paper and try to find out what is the teacher's outcome. What kind of question teacher is given. So their objective is to pass the exam, find out the grade. They are not enjoying the teacher. Because that is obligation, they have to pass the exam. That's why they are doing. But can you make them that you are enjoying the course? Think about in 10+2 or class 10 examination, there is a question, write a short note on some topic. What people are do? Before the exam, everybody know what topic, what are the topic will come in the exam hall. There will be a book published by some PhD in English or PhD in Hindi, PhD in Bengali people, and the students just remembering from last line to first line to last line and goes to the hall and just vomit it. And after that, forward. They should get a 0 marks. Because what is my objective? My objective is to find out whether students are able to write or able to narrate an event with his own language or not. But what we are doing? Every student know that there is no obligation. I have to read it from first line to last line unless I will not get a marks. If I am the examiner, I give them the 0 marks because they are choosing the word which only can be written by a PhD in that language. So how do you motivate the students? That is your capacity. That is the teacher's main role. Next question.
Thank you, sir. So next question is from Dr. Bhuvanesh. He says, sir, sometimes students are crazy to know sometimes. As a teacher, what should we do at that time?
Crazy to know something.
Yeah. Yeah, sir.
Do not discourage them. If you say that you want to increase the self-learning, give them the reference. Just read this. So you don't give a ready-made solution to any student. Then their thinking ability is gone away. That's why I'm saying, in my opinion, do not solve a complete problem in a class. Give them the hint, give them the path to solve the problem. Let them try. They will be interested, they will come to your class. If you solve them, oh, I'll read it during exam. Gone. Most of the teachers said, oh, I'll give you the note before the exam. Teaching learning process gone. What note you have given? Nothing that is called note. What? You have to encourage them to by self-learning. You have to encourage them, be creative. Not that this is the question, this is the answer, this is the question, this is the answer. If this is your education system, that education system cannot survive.
Thank you,
question.
Sir. Yeah, sir. So next question is from Dr. Gopal again. He says, जहां तक मैंने महसूस किया है कि अधिकांश विद्यार्थी सीखने से ज्यादा सिलेबस पूरा करने और ज्यादा से ज्यादा अंक प्राप्त करने के उद्देश्य से ही पढ़ाई करते हैं। ऐसे में एक शिक्षक की भूमिका क्या होनी चाहिए?
Why? See that? Why this is happened? Because we have changed that our education system. Our assessment system is not every student know I required a certificate. I'm a graduate from this university with a 90% marks. That system required to be changed because that is already developed in our society. That we, as a teacher, my responsibility that we have to change the system. If we not try to change the system, then whole education system will be going down. See, everybody, every student, here in IIT, everywhere, how much marks I will get. Now you correlate the marks. What I said, assessment and evaluation. If your assessment is related to the achievement, they will not get the marks if they not develop that skill. Fail. Then only the education system will divide. University cannot dictate that, okay, you have to give 30 marks so that every student get the answer. No, there is nothing called easy 30 marks, 40 marks. How do you define the 30 is your pass mark? You cannot define it. It is a vague definition. 30 marks is a pass mark. Suppose, think about example. Every university, they said that answer 5 out of 8. And you can see that 8 questions are in 8 chapters. So a students can only prepare for 5 skill, Last 3 skill is not important. And his competence is 100%. Now you said the pass mark is 30. So only 21% skill set he promoted in the next class. Are you think that he will be able to do it good in the next class? No, not at all. So that's why we're creating a wrong graduate. That's why the employability is goes down. That is the important issue. We have to realize. We have to do it. Next one.
So Dr. Krishna Kumar is asking, he's saying very informative session. So which software you are using for classification of taxonomy theory?
This is developed by IIT Kharagpur. If you see that, I'll share you the slide. Are you able to see it, the slide? Just
No,
a
not
minute.
right.
Now,
Yes, sir.
so www.ide.iitkgp.ac.in. Okay, you go there, you will be landed to this page. I'll share again.
Thank you, sir. So no more questions are there.
Any participant had any questions or any doubt? Anything?
Participants can ask if they have.
I have one question.
Yes, told me.
Myself, Dr. Sudha Sarawat. सर हम बात कर रहे हैं स्किल्स की और करते भी हैं और टीचर अपना बेस्ट करता है क्लासरूम्स में, लेकिन जब यहाँ पर अगर हम ग्रेडिंग की बात करते हैं मार्क्स की, अगर कहीं एडमिशन लेना होता है तो फिर वही बात घूम के आ जाती है कि मार्क्स पर ही हम कहीं अच्छी जगह एडमिशन ले पाते हैं, तो वहां पर स्किल्स या ग्रेडिंग का तो कोई मीनिंग नहीं रह जाता, तो मार्क्स इज इम्पोर्टेंट. तो मेरे ख्याल से तो अभी भी यही चल रहा है.
No, sir. See that, madam, I can share you an experience. In IIT, when the company came, the first job is not got by the guy who got 90% marks. First job is got by the guy who got 75% marks. Because they are looking for the skill, not for the marks you got, because your marks is not reliable. So there, why we choose the marks for screening? Because there is thousands of applications are there. There may be a very good students who got 60% marks. I'm not denying that. But suppose I have to take 1,000 students interview, I cannot take it. That's why I take a say that okay, let's the 75% is my cutoff marks. So within 75% the students will come. It is not that I will take the students who got the 90%. I will take the student who got 76%. Doesn't matter, because if that person has a skill.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you. Sir, actually, we are running out of time. We have a next session at 3:30. So I would like to present a vote of thanks now. I, on behalf of ARST College, University of Delhi, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to our respected guest speaker, Dr. S.K. Das Mandal, who blessed us with his presence and took out valuable time out of his busy schedule. I must mention a deep sense of appreciation for his work in the areas of online education and outcome-based learning and e-content development. He enlightened the participants about how to equip the students with 21st century knowledge, attitude, and skill, and to achieve outcome-based learning to deal with the current challenges in the education. I feel his lecture would be immensely helpful to everyone to overcome these challenges. Thank you, sir, for the excellent coverage of the topic. I would also express my gratitude to our principal, sir, who has always been a guiding force and motivation behind all successful events, Dr. Vinita Tulli, program convener, and Dr. Anjali, co-convener, and all the team members. And a sincere thanks to all the participants for being a part of this session. Have a good day. Thank you. We'll be joining again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Vinita ma'am? Vinita ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, we'll be joining at 3:30 again.